I realized that I chose that shame. It wasn't a spiral. And even though it felt horrible, it felt like I had no other choice. So sometimes you choose shame, and no one has ever told you that that's what you're doing. I am Paulien Timmer. I'm an expert on healing the fearful avoidant attachment style. I've helped over 3,000 people heal this specific attachment style over the past 7 years after fully healing it myself. And I am so happy you are here because in this video, we are going to be talking about the shame dive. And you really need to know what that is if you're a fearful avoidant. So you may have heard of the shame spiral. And a spiral kind of feels like you're sliding into shame. And there are ways to stop it. And you even want to stop it. But for fearful avoidance, they don't slide into shame. They actually choose it. They choose to dive into shame. It somehow feels better. It somehow feels safer. Why? Why, in goodness gracious, would that feel better, to feel shame? The reason you feel you have to feel shame and you dive into shame is because you use shame as a correction mechanism. You've learned when you grew up that you have to feel bad in order to change. And if you don't feel bad, you don't change. And that is a very scary thing for a fearful avoidant that always feels like they're doing something wrong, that feels like there is so much wrong with them, that you are fundamentally flawed. You feel like you have to change. So imagine doing something wrong. And you have that belief that you can only change, you can only correct when you feel bad about yourself, about who you are as a person. It will be very hard for you to not dive into shame, to love yourself through that. Because then you believe that you won't change and that you will stay this horrible person that you really believe you are, which is not true, obviously. And it's sad that that's a belief that so many fearful avoidants have. But that's why you choose shame. Because it helps you correct the behavior. I remember so well how this mechanism just kept popping up multiple times a day. If I felt I had done something wrong, either with my partner or in friendships or just in the world, there was this sinking feeling in my stomach, almost like on the verge of nausea. And I just felt like I had to retreat and had to make myself feel bad. I would even stop taking care of myself. I wouldn't really allow myself to eat. I wouldn't allow myself to make myself feel comfortable. And I didn't understand it then, but what I was doing was punishing myself for doing something wrong or even thinking that I did something wrong and trying to correct that, trying to make it better. And the interesting thing is that the more you love your partner, the more you are prone to shame, which will cause you to pull away more, to retreat more. And so this is super confusing for you and for your partner because it feels like you don't love your partner. And yet, because you love your partner so much, you're so afraid of doing something wrong that you are much more prone to take the shame dive, to dive into shame to correct your behavior. And so what your partner will notice or experience is you retreating, you shutting off, closing off, just shutting your feelings down. Shame for fearful avoidance is a very intense feeling. It is not something they can stop. It is not something that they can be kind to themselves about. They feel like they are horrible and they should feel horrible because otherwise nothing is going to change. So a lot of fearful avoidance postpone happiness. You postpone love. You postpone enjoying your life until you are perfect. Does that ring a bell? Let me know in the comments below because I genuinely want to know. But what happens if you believe that the only way that you will change is to feel shame and feel bad about yourself, you will feel bad constantly because there is no perfect. You will never get to perfect. And I know that might be hard to hear when you're struggling with the fearful avoidant attachment style, that you are working towards a kind of like a fantasy, really, that you will be perfect at some point and never hurt anybody ever again. That is not the way out. As long as you believe that you have to feel bad in order to change, you will keep making yourself feel bad. You will keep making yourself feel shame. The way out is not being perfect. The way out is compassion and kindness and loving yourself through this. This is what really helped me heal this specific part. When I felt like I was doing something wrong, which was a lot, at a certain point in my healing journey, I could say to myself, I am going to love myself through this. There was a point before when I couldn't, when that was just too much, too hard. I didn't feel like I deserved it at all. I wasn't worthy of love during doing something wrong. My whole system was just focused on, I have to fix this, I have to be better, I have to do better. But there was this feeling underneath that would never happen, that I was just fundamentally flawed and I could work really hard to try to be better or perfect, but I would never. So that is what that shame is. Like, this is me, this is my character. I can't really change it. I can only just try my best to be perfect. But in my healing journey, there was a point where I could start saying that to myself. I am going to love myself through this. So whenever I felt like I made a mistake or I did something wrong, there was a lot of feelings that came up. But I kept saying to myself, I'm going to love myself through this. I did something wrong, maybe. I made a mistake. That doesn't mean that I am wrong. And that is how you start healing shame. You don't make it about you as a person. I am wrong. I am horrible. I have to fix myself before I get to receive love and allow love. You make it about your behavior. I maybe did something wrong. I maybe made a mistake. And I say maybe because a lot of fearful avoidants just constantly feel like they're doing something wrong, or that they did something wrong, or that somebody is angry with them. And they don't even really know why. And so there's probably a lot of moments where you think you've done something wrong and the other person is like, no, that was fine. So this is how you start to heal shame, by not making it about yourself, but making it about, okay, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I made a mistake. I am still okay. I'm a good person. And I get to learn from this. I get to learn from this feeling. And the next step in the healing journey is then the fact that this doesn't feel good for me just means that it is not aligned with who I want to be. So instead of just completely focusing on, I did something wrong, I hurt somebody else, now they're going to be mad at me, which only leads you to dive into shame, correct it, and also become very defensive, not open to connection, not open to going through this together, just closing off, wanting to run away, sometimes breaking up because you're just like completely panicked. When you get to a point where you can say, this just doesn't feel good for me, what I did there didn't feel good for me, it doesn't align with who I want to be, then it is easier to hold on to yourself and be there for yourself as well for the other person while you made a mistake. This might sound wild, but when you're able to say, this doesn't feel good for me, so it doesn't align with who I want to be, that's when you kind of stop the shame. You can say, okay, how was that for you? You can be there for the other person and for their feelings and for their experience, and take all of that, your own feelings and the feelings of the other person, as information. And you say, okay, this person is very important to me. I want to make it work. And so I will change this behavior, which makes it so much easier to change the behavior that is needed or wanted than when you take the shame dive. Because when you take the shame dive, you just bury yourself in layers and layers of shame and guilt and fear and panic. And the chances that you actually do change are way lower than when you are able to hold on to yourself and just really objectively almost look at the situation and at the relationship. You can say, oh yeah, I can see how when I say this and this, that doesn't work for my partner, or it's not a good experience for my partner. And then you can change that. And do you feel how much lighter that feels than, oh my goodness, I did something wrong, I am the most horrible person, I now have to retreat, close everything off, not talk to my partner because I have to punish myself into changing? That is heavy. That is heavy, and it is unnecessary. But again, as long as you believe that you have to feel bad in order to change, you will not allow yourself to feel good. You will always take that shame dive to use that as a correction mechanism. And now you know there are other ways that actually work better and are much lighter. And you deserve that. You are worthy of loving yourself through any mistake that you made, through anything that you do wrong. Because the irony of all of this is that the more you believe you are doing things wrong, and the bigger and heavier it feels, the easier you get into a panicked state where you do things that hurt yourself, that might hurt your partner. And so it's kind of like this self-perpetuating cycle. So now you know how to get out of it. Believe that loving yourself through this is actually the best way to go through this, the most responsible way to go through this. You don't have to let yourself feel bad. You don't have to make yourself feel bad. And you don't have to take the shame dive. You are a good person. And all good people make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. You get to be there. And when you've healed, you'll notice. If I me talking about this subject now, I cannot even imagine doing that anymore. Just, you know, taking on this huge burden of I am a horrible person if I did something wrong. Loving yourself through this makes it so much lighter. And all of my relationships are way better now. So this is the shame dive. Do you recognize it? Please let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious if you recognize that the shame dive feels way more intense than a shame spiral. And fearful avoidants definitely take the shame dive instead of the shame spiral. Let me know. Let's talk about it in the comments. As always, I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one. Healed and Happy is a tailor-made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of the fearful avoidant attachment style.